What's the hardest part about learning German? Do Germans really go to the sauna naked? What do German schools teach about the Holocaust? Ask a German is back, and here are my answers. Hello, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Felicia. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I have been living in Cincinnati for about 3 years now. So as I said in my last Q&A video, I get a lot of comments from you guys that I haven't had the chance to reply to yet, and I decided to make this a series. So for today's video, I picked a few questions that you guys asked me on YouTube and on Instagram under the hashtag #AskAGerman, and I'll answer them now. Let's get started. I just watched a video hosted by a British news person. She said that it is very popular in Germany to sit in a sauna and to sweat. She also said that Germans go to public saunas where men and women go into a sauna, 20 to 30 people at a time, completely naked with total strangers and both sexes mixed. Is this true? Don't people feel uncomfortable and embarrassed in such a situation? Yes, this is true. Germany in general is just very open about nudity and sexuality. It's just a normal part of life for us, and you'll actually notice this by walking through Germany too. Just to give a few examples, there will be topless women on the covers of newspapers and certain magazines, and they will be openly displayed at the store or the gas station, for example. You'll also probably see ads for condoms everywhere, like at the mall or on billboards on the side of the street. And we have those areas in public parks, beaches, lakes, where people are allowed to be fully naked. They're called FKK areas, which stands for Freikörperkultur, which I guess translates to nudism. And yes, in saunas too, people are usually naked, and a lot of saunas are mixed for men and women, but some of them are also separated. In most saunas, it's actually mandatory to take your clothes off for hygiene reasons. I have to say that I don't really have a lot of experience with this though, because I personally don't really like going to the sauna, but I think people in Germany are pretty much used to it and don't really feel that uncomfortable. What's the hardest part about learning German? Do you think it's true that Germans always sound angry when they speak German? So from my experience with teaching German, I would say that the hardest part about it is definitely the grammar and the pronunciation. When it comes to grammar, I think the 4 cases that we have in German are really tricky to learn. And also the noun genders, because in English you only have one gender for nouns, it's just the or a. In German, we have 3 different genders. We have feminine, masculine, and neutral. Pronunciation-wise, we just have a lot of consonants in our words and a few sounds that are just really hard to make, like the CH or the R sound, r. And even vowels or umlaute can be hard to pronounce. Like, for example, the German E sound that I have in my name, Feli, is usually really hard for English native speakers to make. And I would say no, I don't think that Germans always sound angry, but then again, it's my native language, so of course I don't think that, because I actually understand what people are saying. But I honestly think that even to non-native speakers, it doesn't sound as angry as a lot of people assume, because I have had people come up to me and be like, "What? That's German? That doesn't sound like German. It's not aggressive enough." So I personally think that that assumption has a lot to do with old Nazi footage and Nazi movies, where German is spoken a lot more aggressively. For those of you who are interested in learning German and maybe find out that it's not as angry sounding as you might think, this video is actually sponsored by Lingoda, an online language school where you can take German online classes with native speakers. And they have this marathon challenge, which is an amazing way to either get started on a language, or if you already speak the language, work on your fluency. Because as most of you probably know, the best way to learn a language is to be in a country where the language is spoken, because being exposed to it every day automatically helps you learn the language. But since it's not that easy to just go abroad and stay there for half a year, the Lingoda Marathon is an amazing alternative, because you'll be speaking and listening to the language several times a week, so your language skills are going to improve really quickly. You can do the marathon over 3, 6, or 12 months, and during that time you'll be taking 2 to 3 classes per week. And to accommodate your busy schedule and different time zones, Lingoda actually offers classes 24/7, and you can choose between private classes and group classes. And the best part is that if you complete 90% of your classes, you'll get a cash refund of up to $1,400 for private classes and $600 for group classes. So this is also an amazing motivation to stick with it. Besides German, they also offer English, Business English, Spanish, and French. I actually attended one of their German classes, and as someone who has experience with teaching German, I have to say that I was very impressed with how well those students in the class spoke German, because afterwards I asked them, and most of them said that they had just started learning German 4 weeks before that with the marathon. So here's a little snippet from that class, which was all about the topic family.
Mona und Tom sind die Familie.
Ja, sind die Familie oder?
Sind die Eltern.
Genau, parents. Yeah, because we have a context here with a girl. Gut, sind die Eltern? Danke. Und Jennifer, 3.
Die Familie lebt in Sydney.
Genau, die Familie lebt in Sydney.
What you didn't see here is that you'll actually be able to see the teacher's face, and I really liked how interactive the class was and how comfortable everyone was to speak German in front of each other. And the teacher also took the time to answer every single question that came up and explain everything as well as possible. So if you're interested, use the link in the description below to register and use this discount code to save $27 on your first purchase. You can start the marathon challenge anytime, any day of the year, and if you end up not liking it, there's a 7-day money-back guarantee. Here's a little overview, and if you're interested in more details, go check out their Instagram page as well. And now it'll get a little more serious again with the next question. What do they teach in Germany about the Holocaust and Hitler? Interesting question, and I know that some Americans that I've talked to kind of just assume that we're not really talking about this topic in Germany, but we do a lot actually. I can't repeat everything they teach you in school, of course, and the curriculums of schools vary a lot too, but going to school in Germany, I remember that my classmates and me, we were all really getting sick of this topic by like the 8th grade, because it was really like talking about it non-stop in all subjects. In history class, of course, in German class, and since it was mandatory in Bavaria to take religion or ethics classes, we talked about it a lot there as well. And even in music class, we analyzed the Nazi songs and their propagandistic and manipulative features. We went on field trips to concentration camps and other important historical places, and we also read a lot of books and watched a lot of movies on the topic, which is really important, of course. And obviously, the overall consensus whenever we talked about those topics were always that those events can never ever happen again. I personally don't remember learning a whole lot about who Hitler was as a person. It was more focused on the suffering of the Jews and all the cruelty, and we learned a lot about the political, economic, and cultural factors that made World War II and the Holocaust even possible, and that led people to believe in such an awful ideology. And there's 2 more things that I'd like to mention just for informational reasons. The first thing is that it's actually illegal in Germany to deny the Holocaust. And the second thing is that the best documentary that's out there on the whole topic, on the Holocaust, in my opinion, is Shoah by Claude Lanzmann from 1985. It's a really good documentary, very long, but it includes interviews with perpetrators, victims, and eyewitnesses. And from that, we'll go to a little lighter question again. Is it true that American food is sweeter per usual? I've heard this rumor, but if I see all the sugar in German foods, I can hardly imagine so. Yes, this is definitely true. I'm a person that likes it really, really sweet, and I don't think that any of my friends or family have ever heard me say that something was too sweet. It's usually them complaining about the things that I order at a restaurant, like for example the cocktails or the desserts that I get, that those things are too sweet. But the first time that I experienced that feeling was in the US. And this doesn't only apply to sweet things, it's also savory dishes like bread or casseroles that are a lot sweeter in the US. And one time at a Thanksgiving dinner, there was pie and vanilla ice cream for dessert, and both items were already so sugary by themselves, and then combined, I really felt like I couldn't even taste anything anymore. And that was a moment where I was like, okay, I arrived in the US. This is American Thanksgiving. Okay, I get it. And there are statistics too that show that the food in the US contains more sugar on average. Of course, as always, you can avoid the sugar if you try hard enough. And you'll notice it too if you go to Starbucks. The same drink will probably be sweeter at the Starbucks in the US than it is at the Starbucks in Germany. That was it for today's Ask a German video. If you have a question for me as well, make sure to leave a comment with the hashtag #AskAGerman and maybe I'll pick it for the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to share your personal experiences on these topics in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing. Follow me on Instagram and I hope I'll see you next time. Tschüss!